Previously on TV Dudes.
To me and my TV Dudes. Welcome to episode 487 of the TV Dudes. I'm Les, here with all, except for, well, no, not all.
His name's Greg.
The dearly departed.
Of the TV
Perfect.
Dudes. So, for all of the new listeners that we've gained in the last months, I'm sure, from somewhere, let's go around the room.
Randy.
Kyle.
I'm Les.
Nick.
And Grant.
And we're the TV Dudes. So, because there's 5 of us and I don't want this to take, 8 hours or anything, I think we're going to tighten up the TV diaries just a little bit this week.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
And just go around the room and what have we been watching? What's your favorite thing on TV right now? And you can't say the thing we're going to talk about in a minute.
Right. I feel like we should definitely skip you and me probably for this week for TV Diaries, at least, and just keep it to 3.
You know,
we're going to keep it tight.
When I was doing TV Diaries, I always had my list in front of me, but I knew you were going to ask me this question. So what I've been watching, a little show called Cougar Town. I kid you not. Having stepped away from TV Dudes for a while to like not have to do the week in, week out, I went to sort of rewatching stuff. So I rewatched all of Scrubs, except I got to Scrub Med and I was like, I don't need to rewatch that. And then I was like, what other Bill Lawrence show would I watch? And I'm like, you know what? I'll rewatch Cougar Town. And I swear to God, y'all, I don't think I've watched most of Cougar Town. I watched that show. I think I watched all of it, but none of it's familiar.
I think this is called relapsing.
It's funny. It's really good. It's one of those shows, like half of the show is them making fun of their own title. Like they know they fucked that up, but the actual show is funny as hell.
I think what's happening is we found you that drug that lets you forget TV shows, but it also, you forget that you take the drug.
Right.
So that's why you've watched Cougar Town. You just don't know what happened.
If that's the case, man. I gotta go back to Breaking Bad.
Right.
Oh, that would be the show.
I actually do want to do a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul rewatch. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of rewatching. So I've been doing a lot of work stuff. And while I'm working, I'll watch Cougar Town because I can sort of half pay attention to it. But yeah.
I love that getting to hear your side of things when you're released from the constraints of the TV Dudes.
Yes.
And like, thankfully I try nothing new.
No, I did watch 3 Body Problem on Netflix, which I wound up really liking. I know y'all were a little uncertain about that one, but I wound up digging it.
Being generous.
And I'm trying to think what other new stuff I've watched, but mostly, yeah, Cougar Town repeat. Oh, I'm keeping up with After Midnight. Taylor Thompson is killing it on that show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She's great on that. Keeping up with Star Trek Discovery, even though I'm really disappointed in the final season. And Ghosts season 2 was great.
Yeah. I thought Ghost wrapped
Is
up
that
great.
show good?
Yeah,
It's really fun.
It looks like another big ensemble comedy, and
Yeah.
I've only heard about it via seeing a billboard during South by, and I was like, "What is this show?"
Yeah. No, it's super good.
I've not watched the UK version. I tried to, and it's so similar to the US that I was like, oh man, I can't. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's like got those accents.
But yeah, they keep finding ways to like add
Solid
new
export.
ghost rules or add new, like to have reasons why there can still be backstory that some of these ghosts don't know about each other.
And
like,
even add in a ghost. They'll have a ghost that shows up
Right.
like, oh, I'm a traveling ghost. And yeah, it's the
Puritan
world
that they
building is
lose.
surprisingly tight, and the thing is funny as hell.
the ghosts they lose in the ground.
Yeah. Oh, that was meant. Paramount Plus, surprisingly, for a while there, has been the strongest streaming service, which I did not expect.
It helps that the ones that were so far ahead of them in the lead just imploded.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
bitch, Knuckles. Shockingly good.
Dude,
What?
so seriously, Knuckles
I've
on
not
Paramount
I
watched
Plus.
know you
Yeah.
won't believe us.
It was so good that we went back and watched a Sonic movie thinking, did I miss some gem?
We didn't.
We didn't. The
We
Sonic
were-
movies
no,
are not
we
that.
were- we didn't.
They're
Is it
so-so.
based off of that character?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's voiced by
Idris
Idris
Elba.
Elba.
Uh-huh.
I thought that you were saying the show was called Bitch
Bitch
Knuckles.
Knuckles.
Bitch Knuckles.
I
was like,
I saw them open for Sacred Tank.
And the other one I'll say, also a Paramount show, been watching Elsbeth.
Same.
Love
Yeah.
the character.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the premise. I hate that they took this defense lawyer
Yeah.
and turned it into a procedural where she's working for the fucking cops.
It's a wasted opportunity. She was the quirky lawyer that whole firms got when they needed to beat the Treasury Department or some shit.
Yeah.
And now she's just helping cops.
Yeah, it feels like they took the character and just rounded all the edges of like, well, she's still quirky, but now she's a cop. And I'm like, fuck you.
Well, it's like,
But I already have a bunch of
procedural-
seasons of Monk. I don't need this.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just like Lucifer or Sleepy Hollow
Yeah.
or like any put an eccentric character in the detective role.
Now, if you had Elsbeth working with Lucifer and the LAPD, that show I would watch.
The crossover event.
Well, that's Lopez's character.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who's Elspeth? Is this from a show, Monk?
It's from The Good Wife and The Good Fight.
Oh,
Mhm. Carrie Preston.
I watched the first episode having no idea, and I got halfway through and I asked my wife, I was like, she has to be from another show. There's no way this is the pilot and that character is that well developed.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, that's my TV diaries. Kyle, what you watching?
Nice. Well,
I can't wait for Kyle's to not have
I
changed
know.
at all.
Elsbeth and F1.
well, I mean, it's actually, if you
The
want to talk
grand-
about that,
the grand tour and all of the
we
Angle
can
File
get
movie.
going.
What have I done?
Yeah. No, lots of F1 content still on there. I've also gotten my entire family involved now. So it's like I have a group chat blowing up every day. It's constant memes. No, I digress though. Honestly, I've been in like some TV hibernation, and the thing that, got me out of it, maybe we'll talk about in a second, but
Sure.
it's funny. It's like it opened the floodgate. Been watching Elsbeth, binged through season 1 and 2 of The Bear for the first time.
Oh God, The Bear.
I'd never seen it before.
Season 3's coming back.
Any good?
Oh, fantastic. Love you. No,
Hey, can I get that fork?
Is that the cooking show?
no, the big one that has me kind of going crazy right now is it's Jeopardy Masters right now. So
Kyle,
Man,
you
whatever
never
I-
disappoint.
Never change.
Never disappoint.
You fucking, I don't know what was going to come out of your mouth, but I knew you were going to deliver. You beautiful son of a
I
bitch.
knew there was going to be a game show in there somewhere.
yeah. No, Jeopardy Masters is hard. Like they're going through these questions and I'm like, they have stacked the deck. Like if you like watching Jeopardy and maybe knowing the answers to a couple questions, that ain't happening here. It is. Yeah. It's either insane or every now and then there'll be a really easy one and you'll be like, why'd they put this in here? And it's like, because they're all robots and that's how you trick the robots, You give them a CAPTCHA. James Holzhauer is like, huh? What color is a bee? What's a bee?
I've never seen one of those.
It's a banana, Michael. What can it cost? $10?
I don't know. Obviously I know I have purchased
Make a chicken
thing,
noise.
being a live human.
Mhm. No, the thing that I love about Ken Jennings as the host, which he's hosting everything now, and I don't know if Trebek was as good about this, but because Ken Jennings is just as good as all the people on the show, when they get an answer wrong, he can go into, well, I know a little something about your wrong answer, and here's
Oh wow!
why.
So it's like if Alex Trebek actually'd his fucking
Yeah.
contestants.
No,
That sounds
he's
awesome.
constantly saying stuff where it's like, there's no way that could have been on the teleprompter because how would you know that would have been their wrong answer?
Right.
And then start talking about King Edward VIII and,
Jeopardy explaining.
what kind of sandwiches he liked. But yeah,
I'm surprised shows for smart people can survive in modern day America, but I'm glad to know they do.
right. My in-laws are big, PBS watchers. Like they are the audience for that. And I tried to get them to watch 8 out of 10 Cats Do Countdown. And they were it was also like the most like vulgar episode I'd ever seen, like unnaturally vulgar. But even the number and word games wasn't enough to get these boomers involved.
What's your idea of naturally vulgar?
What was it? I mean, they just like went straight in with like eating pussy and stuff like that. And my in-laws are sitting there and I'm like, no, it's like letters and words, but they're comedians. So, they're telling jokes right now.
Man, that is a great in-law story.
Oh yeah. Like my mother-in-law, I surprised when I proposed
sure
to my
they
wife.
love you.
Oh, this is great. I surprised my wife by flying out her sister and mother-in-law so that as soon as I proposed, then she could talk to her mom and sister about it because I knew that would be what she'd want to do.
Smart.
Well, the morning of this, I wake up and I'm having coffee with my soon-to-be mother-in-law, and I'm like, "What? You don't know about open relationship? Like, how we got on the conversation. No clue, but taught her what poly was, taught her what open relationships were. And I'm like, isn't this fascinating?
This is the
So
day
you-
you
the
proposed.
calendar
But you
they must have.
hadn't proposed yet.
No. And the first thing,
Wow.
thing she says to Shannon is, can you ask him about this conversation we had?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what you thought I meant by that? Like that, I thought it was interesting.
She thought
It's
you
going to
were
be like
bracing her
10
for-
anniversaries deep before this fully fades.
Oh, it's going to be a funny story at your 50th anniversary.
Right, that she's still going to bring up.
Which will absolutely get brought up, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like it was yesterday for her.
No, I power through conversations like that with my in-laws all the time.
Wow.
Mhm.
Man, I simultaneously, Kyle, I've missed you and never come back on the show.
Man, I was going to lose money if you didn't bring up F1.
I wore an F1 shirt.
Right.
I mean, kind of.
Oh, I think we got one TV dude left.
Yeah. I also am watching F1 a lot.
Oh
yes.
shit!
That was a fun day when I found out Grant was watching F1.
Obsessed with F1 and Austin FC. That's our local soccer team. I watch that a lot. So I'm just done with television otherwise. No, honestly, I do watch. I'm doing a rewatch right now of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I
Oh,
think I've
yeah,
only
nice.
watched like the first 3 seasons of that. So this
Oh.
is, and it's all
So
pretty fresh to me.
pretty
Yeah,
fresh for
that's you get to get that pill that you forget TV shows.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then the one other thing that I've been watching right now, I was just gifted, or I'm stealing the account of a friend for Dropout. You guys familiar with Dropout?
Uh-uh.
No.
It's the people that were College Humor initially.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Okay.
they spun off into this new show, Dropout.
Well
They call
played.
themselves Dropout.
Well
Sam
played.
Reich is now the
Okay.
owner of it. That's his dad is the other Reich guy. You guys probably know politics. Anyway, he owns this and he's doing a game show on there called Game Changer. And my friend Rubio, who I do a beer show with, he said, "Oh, you got to watch this. It's great." So I started watching this game show, and the whole premise is that each episode of this game show, it's a new game. And none of the contestants know what the game is, and they have to try and figure it out as it's going along.
Love it.
But they're all these like College Humor like comedians. They're all competing in these games, and so you've probably seen clips on social media of these guys here and there. They'll have like this kind
I've
of
seen
rainbow
this.
background,
Yeah.
and they're like improving the scenes, and
Okay.
you're not really sure what it's from. It's all from
Yeah.
Dropout. It's all from this
Hand to
game
God, I
show.
thought
My
that was- I
my
thought that
son
was after
pulled
midnight.
up some of those on YouTube,
Yeah,
and it
right?
does sound like after midnight. Yeah.
It does feel just like it.
Like, yeah, I'm
it's
almost certain
good.
I've seen some of this. That's great.
Okay.
It's
all right.
really fun.
Also, I forget this routinely, and I'm stunned every time I relearn this fact, but Sam Reich from College Humor is Robert Reich's kid.
That's
Holy
who I
shit.
was. Yeah, Robert Reich's kid.
Yeah.
I
Like,
did not
so
know
if
that.
you've ever gone and
Okay.
watched any of his dad's like 14-part explainers on, like from, he's a college professor, was a college professor, just retired. Like amazing master classes on how the economy works and everything, where he occasionally tells really funny stories about being like pants shittingly terrified when his kid was like, "I'm dropping out of school, Dad. I'm on to write comedy." And like, nope, made it work.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the host of the game show.
That's
and he's
awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah, no,
That's awesome.
now I know who that is, and yes, I've seen some of that. That's really funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a thing. I had to start watching that regularly.
I'm sure you in particular have seen Brendan Lee Mulligan,
Yeah.
the comedian,
Yeah.
because he'll do a bunch of like really like insane D&D
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
with
Right.
those clips.
I've
It's like,
seen
why
I've
do
seen
I
a
know
lot
his
of
name?
Brendan
Yeah,
Lee Mulligan's
D&D.
stuff, and I finally recognized. I couldn't pick him on a lineup, but I know that name.
Yeah.
Grant, I want to ask you because I have been watching. Have you watched any of the new season of Top Chef? Because you and I used to watch Top Chef.
Mm-mm.
Because Kristen Kish is the
saw.
new host. She's definitely not Padma. Like she hasn't had 20 years to perfect this, but she's got a genuine. And she was a chef. She won Top Chef,
And Padma wasn't a chef.
and Padma wasn't a chef. It's very interesting. It still works. I wasn't sure it was going to work, but it still works. And this new season set in Milwaukee, which gave us Tom Colicchio having to pretend that what is it, Mick?
that
Bush-
Milwaukee's interesting.
That what's the beer? It's not Old Milwaukee, but whatever the beer is that they make there.
Oh, Milwaukee's best?
It's whatever.
Or Miller
beer,
Lite.
Miller- it's Miller, it was Miller Lite. I think having to pretend that Miller Lite was the best beer to cook with. Like it was a great like.
Dude, I don't think the two Wisconsinites here could do that.
But yeah, no, it's been really good. I'm digging. There's two Austin chefs in there. The chef from Olame, who is a deep nerd, She's this adorable black lady who like loves like comics and that kind of stuff. And she talks about all that stuff. And now I want to go to Old Man, which I've never been to, but she's doing really well. And there's a dude who I forget what his Austin, but a couple Austinites, someone from Houston. It's been really fun. And I thought losing Padma might kill the show, but it's not. So worth watching.
Nice.
She was replaceable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not necessary for the show.
I'm kind of surprised because Padma was such a big part. Tom Colicchio, you can never get rid of.
You could get rid of a Grant or a Randy from a show and it just moves on.
That's true. Yeah.
I just love that, like, as TV dudes retire out of the podcast,
Some would say lesser. So
Right. Like as TV dudes retire out, I just picture us like being at home and like, I ain't nothing good on this TV and pulling the gun Elvis style and like just blowing your TV away. You just don't watch TV anymore. Like, didn't you do a podcast about television once, Father? Long ago.
Oh, no, for real. It was a burnout for me.
Well, I know, like,
little bit,
we,
yeah.
we
This guy-
ran into
this guy
Randy at
cranked it
Staple, and he was like, "I'm so glad to not be watching TV like homework."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I
it
felt.
is. Yeah.
I was like, Randy, are you filling a void in your life with TV? And now I have to as well. I can't keep up. I can't keep up.
Yeah. Now she's cocaine wine to fill that void.
it's not my fault you won't get a therapist.
Well, honestly, it's cheaper than a la carte streaming.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
No, I've been hibernating as well. It's like the second you get that off you, you're just like, what do I want to do now? Not watch TV.
Right.
So anyway, y'all, how's TV dudes going?
Yeah. What's TV like?
Well, I've been reading books.
Well, honestly, if I could make just rapid fire suggestions for what we've been watching recently that's paid off. Fallout.
Love Fallout.
Fallout's great.
I've never once played the game. Didn't know shit about it.
Don't
so
have to.
good. I loved that show
Absolutely
so much.
solid.
Interesting silo.
Like we said, unironically, Knuckles. Carrie Elways comes on at some point.
Carrie Always is
Going on
amazing.
as the most British person. He bowls with a bowling ball that has a teacup in it.
Yes, Julian Bell. Is it the guy from Mighty
I
Boosh?
feel like you guys are lying.
I know, right?
So.
Did somebody
One of the
turn
guys from
Hydra
Mighty Boosh is
Collider
on it
again?
before Elway shows up, and he steals the show. And we were like, when he leaves, we were like, well, the show's over now. And then Elways comes in and like,
Yeah.
never mind, we're back.
Jack Sinclair,
Yes, Jack
bounty hunter
Sinclair.
at large. Yeah.
Yes,
And also, wait, that's where you get to the puppet episode.
we get Christopher Lloyd.
There's no way that the three of us would know they were lying. But I don't think they are.
I know. Like
We were shocked.
I didn't know this was a show even.
There was a dearth of television that week, and I threw it on the schedule and was like, "Oh, damn it! I've
I
never
was
watched
like,
a
do
Sonic
we really
movie.
have to watch? And we were both.
I haven't played Sonic since I rented a Sega Genesis from a Hastings in like early '90s."
Also, I'll challenge you and say you did know Knuckles was a show.
Because of F1, it was advertised all
they've been like totally buying out all the F1 advertising.
I was about to say, okay, I did know.
I love that they did a puppet episode like that. That feels like show was made just for you.
It really, yeah. I'm not
Like,
saying that the
for-
Knuckles and Gen V are like the same kind of show, but it had that same kind of moment as when in Gen V the kid just it switches to puppets when he just rips a bunch of people apart. Like we're watching Knuckles going, I can't believe they switched to like
Well, also, there's a lot
paper mache dragons and shit
for
this.
a lot of episodes. A disturbing lack of Knuckles because it's expensive.
But it's
Yeah,
fine because
like-
there's a huge.
Whenever Knuckles isn't on screen, people should be saying, "Where's
Knuckles?
No, but I like because Jack Sinclair and Carrie Elways are so great in it. I don't care where Knuckles is, and also the fucking puppet episode is a great budget saver. Of like, oh, there was this huge war of echidnas versus owls that we can't afford to show, so here's puppets doing it.
We did spend the entire first episode going, should I have watched some of the Sonic movies because I'm so lost,
I'm lost.
in
I
the
don't know.
insanely deep lore of Knuckles?
Surprisingly complex.
Like,
I'm like
had- it-
50-50 here that Knuckles is real and that Nick and Les are having a psychotic break. Who's with me?
Now,
they got Idris Elba. I didn't dream this. I'm not insane.
well, Randy, what if I told you that Knuckles this time was a sword?
Oh, now I know. Now I got it.
yes,
All right.
obviously.
What else was on your list though,
We've
Nick?
brought back Stranger Than Fan Fiction.
I'm confident this is a trick on us. They promised us that we're going to talk about X-Men, and they're just here to sell Knuckles
We're never-
timeshares.
Yes.
It's all an F1 conspiracy. The Knuckles marketing budget is far-reaching.
I don't
We
know
really
what you
need you
talk
guys
about
to be
the
investors.
star hit show on Paramount Plus, now available on Paramount Plus.
So I think that's probably been most of what we've been watching.
Yeah.
That hasn't been rewatches. But we are all gathered this week for the most important thing, the future. It's inevitable. No, we're here to talk about X-Men 97. I honestly, I couldn't I couldn't even do dialogue as dramatic as the show off the top of my head. It's like
Yeah.
it is like a
Time on
cooked
Star
down
Trek.
roux, of soap opera
Did you
dialogue.
see the voice actor roundtable?
No.
Where, oh my gosh, the new so the people they brought back, obviously they look like character, voice actors. These new ones, like, talk about detaching a voice from a person. Like the guy who does Cyclops, I mean, looks more like you than somebody who would sound like Cyclops. Nick.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, the
Like,
dude that plays
well,
Gambit.
you're a good voice actor. I think maybe that's why I'm directing it at you.
Okay.
But just imagine Cyclops coming out of Nick's mouth right now.
The person like climbing out.
Exactly.
My imagination's going places.
Kyle, okay.
Wild. Okay, Kyle. Okay, Kyle. Okay. I did see
I'm gonna find a
that
pic of
there's
this
a
guy
photo
real
of the
quick
guy
to
that
save
plays
myself.
Gambit, and apparently the internet was just absolutely thirsty, melting down
Yeah.
over the voice actor for Gambit
Yeah.
He's a hottie.
because he's a hottie.
He looks like he'd be a game.
He looks like Gambit.
Oh, Cyclops got here. Cyclops.
Oh my God.
To me, my dudes.
No, that's it though.
Absolutely.
This is how it works. I'm gonna find it.
It's like you're gone.
Those are Daredevil.
Daredevil and Cyclops have the same
Right.
glasses.
Same dealer.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that John Lennon could never take those glasses off, or he'd punch the other Beatles. Yeah,
It's true.
Ray Chase is his name if you want to look him up.
Hey Jude is surprisingly above the punch dimension.
yes.
Yeah.
So I assume we've all watched X-Men '97.
Yes.
Did we all watch the '90s X-Men back in the day?
No.
Yeah.
So funny story coming at this from I think is everybody else here has watched 90s X-Men, right? Like it was coming on.
I hated it in the '90s.
Okay.
I watched some of it.
So
then.
so closer you're closer to where I was, Les. I was in college when that came out and Batman animated series had started and I was like, this is the shit. And then X-Men started and I'm like, this is shit. Because I'm like, compare Batman animated and X-Men, they're completely different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
X-Men animated was answering to Saban and Fox Kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I saw the first episode and then I never watched it again.
Yeah.
And so after, I wasn't really excited for X-Men 97. After watching the first episode of X-Men 97, which they were mean and only dropped one a week, I was like, I need more of that shit. And so I went and watched some of the original series. And in watching it the first time, I was like, oh, you know what? I hate a lot of this. Like there's stuff I really hate about it, but I can see where they were doing their best with like everybody telling them this is a kid show, this is a kid show, this is a kid
Well,
show.
how old were you?
I was
In 93.
93. I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a difference.
Yeah. Oh,
I was
totally.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah. 22.
I was 15.
Totally, yeah. That's totally why it wasn't for me.
I mean, that's why there's kids nowadays that love the Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
I was about to
it
say,
hit
there's
at
kids
that
that love
age.
Jar Jar. Yeah.
No, I was a kid at that age. We still didn't like it.
I don't know. I was 15 when the original X-Men was coming on, and 90s X-Men was coming on, and I hated the art style so much, and was definitely at the height of my being picky about comic art.
I thought it was great. It was like that and Spider-Man, and I
Yeah.
couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And so it was just like I never read the comics.
Mhm.
Like I never read comics until I was 18.
Yeah.
So my introduction to all of like Marvel and DC stuff was just through these TV shows.
Yeah.
Same.
And that's why I know about all of it.
Yeah.
I didn't
So-
didn't get into comics as an adult. Batman was animated series was my Batman. I thought Green Lantern was black for the longest time.
Yeah.
Like
He is.
I'm like John. I don't know.
John-
John Stewart's my fucking Green
Who's this
Lantern.
Hal dude?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
I don't think you can mention the 90s X-Men without talking about those Toy Biz action figures.
Oh yeah.
Those
Because
did rule. I had those.
that was like those were my toys growing up.
Fucking A.
like I may have a closer connection to those action
Did you
figures.
have the
than I did
Wolverine
to
where
the
his
show.
claws actually popped out when the button?
No, I did not. Because
Not all of us were rich.
My
Nick.
God.
well, and also
Check
the
your privilege, Nick.
reprints, this happened with Ninja Turtles too, where if you didn't buy like the first 4 Ninja Turtles, like good luck
Their
finding
faces
just a
would,
Ninja
it would phase
Turtle.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be in a trench coat, or they're going to be this variant, or look like Frankenstein, or
Yeah.
They're out
And
of
they-
the box, but I have
Yeah.
all the original Ninja Turtle run, including the Turtle Van.
Look those up on eBay because those are surprisingly like expensive.
I did because I had 2 Turtle Vans.
Mhm.
I got a double birthday and I kept one for spare parts. So I rebuilt. I kept so I could rebuild the one I broke all the time.
Yes. I
I had
actually
a Turtle Van for parts. I was Rich Grant. I am sorry. Like yeah, I was
2
privileged.
turtle fans. And
I'm realizing it now and
You
having to
just said-
reevaluate.
You just said double birthday, so I
Double birthday. I get it.
Well, you know what's interesting to me as I went back and rewatched this, and actually it got me to go back and reread some of my X-Men, is that my X-Men fandom came around like issue 200, which was right about after like the Byrne and Claremont, the classic stuff. And then I read for a while after that. But this was coming out when I had sort of soured on the comics a little bit. So a lot of the stuff that was really heavy in the 90s, the Acolytes, and a lot of that stuff, that was, for me, that's like, I don't like that stuff. And they were mixing in this 90s stuff I didn't like. Gambit, I was never a big Gambit fan.
No, me either.
Now you are.
I am now. Everybody's got to be now. But they would mix it in with like classic, like the Dark Phoenix saga and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting to me to go back and look at what had become sort of classic X-Men, like Cable is such a big part of the show.
Yep,
and Cable for me was like a brand new character. I didn't like that much.
No, and I still don't like Cable.
I don't.
They managed to make me like Cable's role in the show a little bit this year.
But I think to your larger point about like the old show versus this, it is both a continuation and you don't need to have seen it.
Absolutely
at all.
not. No.
Like they fill in any blanks. Like you can get like, oh, that like Morph has experienced trauma because of Sinister.
Yeah.
And you get that through the show now without having to have known the backstory that they showed in the show.
I think my main issue with the update, just total, like I felt like they brought the voice actors back, continued it on. They've kept the dialogue kind of sounding the same
but
arch
better.
soap opera-y. But it's 8 episodes instead of 22.
Yeah.
There's no room to breathe.
10
10 episodes instead of 20. It's like it feels like there's no room to breathe. And so as much as X-Men sometimes feels like reading the Wikipedia to me of like, I mean, I guess that epic thing happened. Jesus. Like just clipping through stuff. I felt like this season was a lot of like the Magneto looking at Wolverine and going, our feud has come to an end. And I was like,
did you ever have one
you guys
conversation
spoken in this?
Did you ever have like one conversation?
Right.
Yeah.
Like I know the X-Men has a lot of deep backstory, but like, am I supposed to know a lot
this
more
show
stuff?
though.
This
Like,
show,
did
though.
you talk at all?
Yeah,
And
there's
so like I felt like it was just constantly like clipping through and having an exposition line of like, and their long relationship. Like,
they did rush through some stuff. I definitely felt like the last three episode arc, there was a lot of stuff where I felt like, man, you could have made more of a meal out of that. But
Even the
man.
Madeline Pryor episode, right?
why
That could
the
have been-
Goblin
that was
Queen that went nowhere.
That could have been a 3-part.
Yeah,
I mean,
easily.
that was a whole crossover story. in the
Roberto
comics.
getting his X suit
Yeah.
You
was
can call
not a
me-
moment. Like
You can call me the Goblin Queen.
Sunspot.
Why?
Don't worry about it.
Like, honestly, and I think that one bothered me because I love Inferno.
Oh.
That was the big crossover for me as a kid, and I was like, Goblin Queen.
And she's gone.
See, I'm the opposite. I hated
But you didn't
Inferno,
like
so I was
Inferno.
like, good. That's all the Inferno I wanted. But I do think people were right. Like they could have done more with it. But I generally, if the choice is between too much or too little, I'd rather go too little. I would rather go a little tighter and not have too much. And I thought that was
Yeah, I did say like in the first episode back, like watching the first couple of episodes, I remember still Nick in the car saying, well, at least they're clipping through plot, and then we're not going to have like dragging this out for like, and wow, they went the opposite direction for me.
In the grander scheme of like what they're trying to do with this in relation to the MCU at large,
Yeah.
it seems like they have such a prime opportunity here to introduce this rich world of the X-Men and use that to get everyone excited about another multiverse where you're going to have some of these characters,
Yeah.
probably not all of them, in
Yeah.
a completely different like iteration,
I
right?
did notice this is the first property where they put the Marvel logo in front with the changing images.
Yeah.
Like a,
but they're
there's a
using
Marvel animation.
animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just the what if.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. They definitely, I mean, this feels to me, if you ask me if this is this MCU, I'd be like, not really. It's in the multiverse.
I think to Grant's, I think that this is their not even backdoor way, but like way to introduce this sweeping crazy. Here's 200 mutants, and then a handful of them are going to somehow matriculate into the MCU.
But it is MCU.
It is MCU, but
Because-
it's multiverse MCU.
But it's
It
an alternate
is,
universe.
But I think like the whole everything is like what we're gonna get probably with Fantastic
Yeah,
Four
say,
is
we're
also
not
gonna
going to get
a
every
different
single
universe,
character
right?
from
For sure,
Fantastic Four coming over, but the family, I bet, by
Considering
the
they're
end of the movie
building
is.
this secret
Yeah.
Secret Wars,
yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
guess all of this is going to count at some level. Some
I would
point.
assume they will do. I mean, remember how everybody loved when they did live action Star Trek Lower Decks,
Yes.
and they could do something similar with X-Men '97, where they get the guy who plays Wolverine, voice acts Wolverine. He looks enough like a Wolverine that you could put him in a cameo in Secret Wars, and people would freak the
Get your
fuck
Kevin
out.
Conroy
Like,
Batman out.
so-
yeah.
Looks a little more like Old Man Logan, but
he does a little more Logan at this point. I
Or
will
they
say,
can cast other people and have Bradley Cooper do all the voices.
one thing I thought was interesting.
I mean, I kind of like that idea.
I learned from my day job of running a comic store, kids don't know who the fucking X-Men are. Like teenagers and
Now
kids,
they do.
they have
That
no
hurts my heart.
idea because they know who Captain America is, they know who Rocket Raccoon is, but the
it's-
X-Men have not been a thing for like 20 years, really.
Well, they've had movies that
But
have
not-
been
not a
like
lot of
not,
and
movies.
not
Like,
in, yeah.
kids
not in
weren't-
a consistent manner.
kids weren't going to see Dark Phoenix. Kids weren't going to see Logan.
Man, I know X-Men
They're
fans
better
who,
off.
yeah.
Oh, not Logan.
The amount of people I occasionally will see, like every once in a while, somebody in my feed will post, "Oh man, I just remember they did a Dark Phoenix movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch that."
Dude, they
Yeah.
did 2 Dark
I
Phoenix.
know.
and then
You
there's
wanna
a comment like,
jump in
"How'd
front of
that
that
go
bullet?
for you?"
Maybe
Yeah.
the third one will be good.
Right. They'll get it.
I do kind of like some of the characters, like even in the bad movies, like the Juggernaut in the X3.
No, wrong.
Loved him. Loved
Well,
him.
to Kyle's point, I like some of the character stuff they do in 97 while
Yeah.
hating the plot. I
Really?
got to say that Les had the same problems. I straight up was yelling at the TV a lot of the times. Because one, the dialogue, I remember from the cartoon, I was like, oh, you're aping the dialogue. Oh, it's worse now.
Man, I
Because
totally
it's
disagree with you
because
on
it's
this.
faster. Like it's the same dialogue, but now there's more of it coming at me, and there's not enough room to breathe with these conversations. And like, he's the future incarnate.
Yeah.
And then Nightcrawler goes, he truly is the future incarnate. Why did he say that line twice? Oh, because Cyclops is about to set up with another line of like, we're going to do what we've said we wouldn't do. Embrace the future. Shut up and fight.
Now, let me ask you this, Nick. Have you read any Claremont X-Men?
That's what I
Yes.
was gonna say.
Because this is what it sounds
So
like. I went back and reread it. It sounds exactly
another
like
thing I'm going to
this.
have to admit, you guys, I don't like the X-Men very much.
Well, that's going to be kind of a problem.
that's good. It's gonna be a knock against the show.
So I mean, I like the idea of the X-Men, but if I were to go, hey, what run do you like? Oh, I like.
This show might not be for you.
Might not be for you. No, because
Do we sweep them off? Like,
so when the X-Men movies were coming out and everybody was like, "There's a timeline issue," like that's the most X-Men thing they're doing.
yeah.
So I liked the
That's how I
X-Men
feel about this.
I like the X-Men 90s cartoon because it combined a lot of storylines with, but they did them in 3-parters, like the Apocalypse and Days of Future Past, but they condensed it down and cut out a lot of excess stuff. And the condensed versions, I was like, oh, these are like the boiled down versions of these stories, and I like them more.
Man.
Like they're less complicated for me. And I was a kid at the time,
Yeah.
and I didn't have enough money to follow all the X-Men titles.
No, all the money was going to those turtle trucks.
Right, right, right.
Absolutely. I had turtle vans to fix.
It's the only guy in a Tri-County area repair a turtle fan.
But the thing is, like, I think what they missed in that cartoon and what I liked in this is that half of what makes the X-Men fun is the soap opera angst and the over-the-top dialogue. And I think they got that
and the
here.
extreme horniness.
And the extreme
yeah.
horniness.
So
But
it's so thirsty.
But I also want to say, I feel like there was some dialogue. The Nightcrawler's eulogy for Gambit, that was some good writing. That was really
people
well
keep
written.
posting single lines from the show in my Facebook feed, and I'm like, shit, what Shakespeare play did that come out of?
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. And then I go back and watch
But
like
it
the
burned-
clip where
burned
it
through
comes
so
from,
fast.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's right, it just washed.
I'll do
Yeah.
you one
Out
better.
for me.
The finale, where the opening of the finale, where they open on the bar where Xavier and Magneto first
Are
meet.
you
Yeah.
about to talk shit about that line?
No, I think that conversation is great, and it parallels like they are coming out to each other
Yeah.
to the point of like at the end of the
from
episode.
the other room, I hear Nick just yelling, "Kiss!"
Yeah. Yeah.
Kiss!
I was talking with a
Kiss,
friend about
though.
that. I was like, we thought they were going to kiss.
I watched this with my daughters
Uh-huh.
who are 11 and 8. My 8-year-old goes, "Are they about to kiss?"
Yes. They,
I'm not- we're not
I'm
crazy.
shocked they didn't.
We're not crazy.
Is that why Bo DeMeo left? He's like, if Magneto and Xavier can't kiss, I'm out of
I'm
here.
out of here.
if that's the reason, good hill to die on.
Yes.
Right.
Respect.
Real quick with that scene, I know you guys saw Rogue on the boat. Did you see the other 3 people on the boat?
I don't remember.
I know who it is just from reading it
Mhm.
online.
Well, I mean, that's how I
Who
found
was
that too. Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and then his
Hilarious.
all his
Okay.
kids. Okay.
And we saw
All right.
Polaris in the background of another.
So
scene
his
as well.
kids and his booty call from the Savage Land. Got it.
Yeah. So
and who's driving the boat?
Way to put it.
I think the show would have benefited from extending out just the character stuff because I like those moments,
Mhm.
and then season finale should have been the Genosha genocide.
Oh, totally disagree.
Because
That
they don't get to play with the Gambit and Rogue and Magneto love triangle thruple thing going on. Actually, that would be a great way to end. Like they say, like the show acts like they did, kind of like they act like Magneto led the team for a minute. Like, oh, Magneto, you had your chance to lead the team. Did he?
I do agree. It would have been nice for that status quo. I thought Professor X coming back was too early.
Too soon.
Yeah. But
I'm so glad the Genosha thing happened in episode 5 because everybody stood up and took notice of X-Men at that point. Like I was enjoying it up to that point, but it was a totally different show after Genosha.
That one's even being submitted for an Emmy.
I mean,
That-
and
that-
it
well, that
deserves
dropped
it.
people's
It's a
jaws.
don't get me wrong,
show.
they needed that episode, but I think it would have been a better finale to go out on.
It's the most powerful thing they did in the season for me.
And I really liked that episode for Nightcrawler comes back.
Yeah.
They
I'm so happy to have Nightcrawler as a regular. That was my biggest issue with X-Men.
Man,
They were
yeah.
X-Men.
when he's in the fucking opening for the last
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
And
How
he
playful.
cuts,
Yeah.
The whole credits, like every time they're
Yep.
Yeah,
constantly
the
changing
credits,
Yeah,
are,
they keep
credits are
updating.
really cool, and I like that. I'm like, oh man, it's so cool that Nightcrawler uses 3 swords.
Yep.
It's for no reason.
Like it's just because. Well,
It's just 'cause.
the reason is because I'm at home going. He better pick up the third sword.
Like, it's so they could set up the joke, which I do respect. The like I got 6 reasons, bub. No,
my
Nine.
friend, you have 9.
you have 9.
It was one of the best moments of the show. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so sometimes it is written well.
Wolverine and Nightcrawler fighting together against those Prime Sentinels was one of the best
Yeah.
action scenes they've done. It was
All of the fighting team ups.
Man,
Like, that's where they got real creative.
Every time I was cringing over a particularly like Days of Our Lives line for me.
Yes.
Some really
There would
cool
be
shit
some
would
fight
happen.
moment that would happen where I'd go, did Cyclops just shove himself across the room with his eye blast?
Uh-huh.
I've never loved anything more than this in my entire life.
we
like,
talk about Justice
did
for
Gambit
Cyclops?
just electrify his claws?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was so awesome.
That was rad.
Well, Storm turning a whole desert into glass.
Yeah.
That opening, that whole opening thing is like a
Holy
showcase
shit,
for them.
yeah.
But let's talk about Justice for Cyclops because Cyclops has been. Everyone fucking hates Cyclops.
Yep.
In the X-Men movies,
Mhm.
he was the dick who was in the way of getting Wolverine and Jean Grey together.
Right.
They have never played him right. They gave him his like Chris Evans Captain America rebirth
Mhm.
here. Like
Yep.
he was
Yeah.
cool as hell. He deserved.
trying to lead this team that he gets to be genuinely mad at Xavier of like you screwed me here.
Yeah.
And say like, no, I did this for you. No.
No.
Like you
No.
raised me to be this and then told me to go do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was doing you a favor. No.
Yeah.
I think the big change, especially with the films and maybe the 90s cartoon, but he was still Cyclops and he was still like an adversary with people,
Yeah.
but not with Logan.
Right.
Like he
Yeah.
was never at odds with Logan. And I think
Well,
once you
because-
put them together and you have to pick, it's
Well, they never deal with like a lot of things like relationship stuff. They don't deal with like Wolverine and Jean kiss at a certain point in this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so they are doing the love triangle.
Yeah.
And they kind of are, but they're not.
You caught the line in the last episode though.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I caught the one Morph gave him.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Morph, hey,
That's
maybe
creepy
stop
every-
turning into my ex.
Look, Morph cannot admit that he loves Wolverine. And he
Oh my
absolutely
gosh.
that.
Yes.
That's the other thing. Are we crazy?
Morph is in
loves
love with
Wolverine.
Morph's in love with Wolverine.
Like-
Absolutely.
like-
and Wolverine is in love with Morph. Remember, that was his whole driving thing in the original cartoon.
But like
Morph died, and that was such a thing.
every time you turn into my ex and say I love you in her voice, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like
Wasn't there an episode where Morph like goes into the shower thinking that Wolverine's already in there? Wasn't that in
I
the
thought so, yeah.
Madeline Pryor
Yes.
episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, what's going
Yeah.
on there? Like,
Yeah. No.
or in
there's-
the X-Men.
I've headcanon, Morph and Wolverine have hooked up.
Yes, for
like,
sure.
Like they were both at low point. It's like right after Sinister, they're both at low points. They're like, hey, could you do me a favor and just turn into a redhead?
Look,
That'd be great.
Wolverine's hundreds of years old. You can't tell me he hasn't dabbled. I'm
Like-
just
Right.
saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, real quick, I was gonna say the line that got me though is when Cyclops said, "Don't break her heart" to Logan,
Yeah.
pretty much implying like,
Yeah.
I know some.
He
of
knows,
this.
yeah.
He also
Yeah.
has a spare gene, or
Had a spare gene.
he will after some retcons.
so
I do love them bringing Madeline Pryor into it and then immediately killing her.
Oh my
also,
gosh.
speaking of Justice for Cyclops, by the way, in the comics, Cyclops abandons his
abandons the
family
X-Men, abandons his family.
and
Yeah.
to go to Jean
Yes.
and abandons his kid, and he could never come back from that. I just finished
No.
reading the X Factor. They really
No,
they
it's
fucked
unreal.
him over.
It's unreal.
like
He
him
fucks
punching
off
his
to
wife,
Alaska,
like-
I think,
Yeah.
to live with Madeline and have that kid, and like leaves the X-Men, leaves all
so
of it.
the tweak that he didn't know is such an important thing because then he didn't do anything wrong.
No, it is a huge retcon that really helps that because he does not come off good at when they merged X Factor back into main
No,
X-Men.
no.
It was not great.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cyclops comes off better, and I think like Storm, they have to sideline her. She's too powerful.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, but they're not going to get rid of her because I love Storm.
Yeah.
And so, but they're going to do, what's the name of the comic run? Life Death.
Life Death.
And I hate it. Life Death sucked.
What?
Like,
oh my God.
That adversary owl thing, I'm like, well, okay, I guess that has nothing to do with anything and is just happening now.
It's just out of the comics.
It's very important in the comics, and I wonder if they're going to go back to it.
I guess.
It was a little bit boring.
Yeah.
If I had to point to a B plot, that was a little bit
but
boring.
here's the
in terms of not having chemistry, like Forge and Storm didn't have chemistry for
I
me.
have to
Like
keep
when they
reminding
kissed, I was
myself
like,
they're in love.
of course that's what's happening. I just don't feel it.
You know what's weird?
In the way that I felt Xavier.
I love Forge and Storm as a couple. I think they're a great couple. But yeah, people don't seem to be able to make it work. Maybe it just is a bad idea because I like them as idea, but I don't think I've ever seen it done well.
I would have
that was
loved
more telling than showing, though, right? Like we didn't see a relationship develop.
That's
all they needed was a montage to do that.
Absolutely.
They
That's
and I
my
think
problem.
that's where the
a lot of it is
quick
tell,
pace
don't
started
show.
bugging.
Yeah.
Like, the minute Roberto puts on an X costume, he switches to the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
well, he wasn't even an X-Man long enough for this to mean anything.
Yeah. But he's
Though-
his boyfriend.
His switch,
So
his switch to the Brotherhood is one of my favorite lines from the entire thing. When he looks at them all and is like, "My mom just handed me over to Sentinels.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
out."
Yeah,
like,
it made total sense. That's another thing where they improve the
Beto out.
comics. In the comics, Colossus joins Magneto for no reason.
right.
And I hated it. It took one of my favorite characters, and we're going to talk about Colossus Erasure, believe me. One of my
Erasure is
favorite
real.
characters joins Magneto for no reason, total personality change. Here I was like, yeah, Rogue and Roberto joining Magneto makes total sense.
Right,
I
right.
totally buy this.
I get Rogue changing sides, but then the next episode, they act like that didn't happen. Like
Yeah.
Rogue's like, oh man, us X-Men stick together. What?
Yeah,
man?
yeah, that's
Bitch,
true.
you just tried to kill us.
I mean,
Like,
in fairness, Magneto did turn off the planet after that.
Right.
So they might have been like, oh,
and she was
shit.
trying to keep it off. What?
She went through some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a hard life. Nick.
Also,
It was a rough week.
the final fight has all X-Men stuff has to do, and all superhero stuff has this in a way. You have to forget how powers work.
Agreed.
There's always going to be a moment where, if you think about it, some combo of powers just ends this problem.
Well, the
Yeah,
Phoenix
right.
Force shows up to fix one problem
Yeah.
and leave one alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
it doesn't fully fix.
Oh, let me
Bastion.
take care of Sinister. And what about Bastion?
That-
That seems like a
You got
problem.
to remember, Phoenix Force is kind of like God. It comes in, doesn't really fuck around with all the other stuff. It's like, well, I fixed this, and I'm great.
right.
Well, maybe Phoenix Force
Pat
come in
on
for
the
the asteroid part of it. Like,
Right. I kept waiting. Or Rogue could take a glove off and take an unconscious Magneto's powers.
Yeah.
Or,
because
Ooh, right.
we need Magneto to take out the
Yeah.
asteroid. And
Could she take Bastion's powers?
that's what I was like.
Yes. You know
So, but Bastion's covered
So-
in Cable's arm, which is the single greatest moment in 10 episodes.
Oh, that was so good.
Bastion peeling that arm off of him and beating him 3 times with it.
with his own, I'm like,
was wonderful.
I did appreciate that. As a
Someone
Cable
finally,
there.
I don't like Cable in the comics, and someone finally hit him with his own stupid arm.
So this is one of those things where this is where X-Men 97 is good. It was so good. It wasn't until right now that I thought, oh shit, they didn't even use Rogue's powers. It didn't occur to me.
that. Yeah, and it's
Well, like, at least he was coated in metal, and I could have no prized my way out of that
it's
one.
one of those things. If you're not enjoying it, you're going to notice
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah.
and you're not going to
But-
forgive.
But also, it's a little bit confusing because I wasn't sure if part of Bastion, like maybe you guys can explain this from the comics.
Yeah.
Bastion was part mutant, but also part Nimrod.
So
right?
let me go deep
Oh, it's
comic
so
for a
weird.
second.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Bastion's origin. Okay, first of all, Bastion's a terrible character in the comics. Like, he's
Kinda
not a great
cool
character.
here, but-
They did a good job with him here.
Mhm.
But
He's
like,
the only person that talks like a regular human.
I was
in it.
not excited to see him because I was like, this is a bad character.
Yeah.
In the comics, Nimrod, the original Nimrod Seminole, goes through the portal,
On the way out of the
the
Savage
portal
Land.
called?
Yeah.
the
I can't-
Siege Perilous.
Siege Perilous.
They
Yes.
sing from like Arthurian times, I
Yes.
think, where you go through and it totally changes you and you lose your memories and that kind of
He
thing.
was basically
So-
going to resurrect you, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes through the Siege Perilous after the X-Men have gone through and becomes a human.
So he chases
Magically.
somebody through it, and they assume that the person came through because they're a person, and they assume that it just destroyed the
Destroyed it because
machine
he's a robot.
because
I
it
wonder
wouldn't
why
be
I'm not into
because it wouldn't be
X-Men.
human enough to have it happen. But it
Okay.
turns out it makes it Pinocchio's Nimrod into like a real boy,
Yeah.
basically.
But Bastion was a mutant who basically was like Mayor 100 from Ex Machina, right?
Yes.
Where
So,
he
yeah,
could
so
talk
they-
to machines.
So
Yes.
they did something slightly different here where didn't his mother get infected or his father got infected by Nimrod tech somehow.
Somehow, and
And
yeah,
that caused his mother to have him
He
was
had,
born.
he had Nimrod semen. I should
was-
do that with my fingers.
Yeah.
he was
had
kind
Nimrod
of
semen.
he was kind of born half robot.
Okay.
So he wasn't really a mutant, but
but he's also a
but he's
mutant with
also-
technopath
Yeah.
powers.
But he can talk to machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the Ex Machina. Yeah.
If Rogue did take the powers, he might still operate because he's also
He's
part
still
of
got
the
the robot stuff.
Because he's still kind of Sentinel.
which could have been a cool scene
Which-
to
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But she could then talk to his tech as well. Like,
True.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that would be tight.
like
Ooh, but at the
honestly,
point
like,
'cause I-
that
man, I love
she
Rogue.
got him, he already had the headpiece. So
Rogue
they
has a
were-
cool power that she never uses, which
Then,
I
like,
get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Then they're in a bar as well, talking while the water.
kiss.
Everybody's in a
Yes.
bar kissing.
Gambit's still cucking in the corner.
When Xavier jumps into his mind to like, I'm going to help you through it, Magnus. I'm like, if he gets his memories back, he's going to remember that you caused it.
Honestly,
Like you broke his brain.
I make
Yep.
I make fun of it, but I couldn't believe how much I was on Bastion's side of when the X-Men tried to recruit him. And he's like, I can't
you
believe you dumb
serious?
motherfuckers.
I did love that there in the moment. He's like, "You're really trying
Are
to
you-
reach out to me?"
Are
And
you-
I'm like, they're trying to reach out to me. No, it's gone. It's over. That's not going to
He
happen.
basically throws himself into death with like the fall guy middle fingers. At
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fuck you.
I have another question for you guys. Do you think that Cyclops was trying to kill Wolverine by making him go up to fight Magneto?
No, but I've seen that
Seen that
meme. It's
meme.
hilarious.
That shit's hilarious. Have you seen that meme? Splinter?
Uh-uh.
It's
Yeah, the meme,
like,
like-
hey Cyclops, wouldn't it be better to leave Wolverine with the other team because of his natural weakness to Magneto's powers?
And then
Nope.
they show the picture of
Yeah.
him kissing
Yeah.
Jean. He's like, no, he's on.
It's like
full speed.
Cyclops is thinking of like him kissing Jean, like, nope,
That's
it'll be
perfect.
fine.
Yeah, I feel like it worked itself
Yeah.
out.
Because I'm like, it doesn't make sense, but it gets a cool scene of
Yeah.
he's going to be stripped of
Well,
his
they did
adamantium.
do
Mhm.
Emma Frost's secondary mutation
They did.
with her diamond form, which I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some of the stuff that I feel like they've already done in the 90s cartoon. And I'm like, wait, didn't she already have her diamond form at
No.
some point?
I don't
Okay.
think she did. That
Okay.
that
Though-
that didn't happen until 2001 when Grant Morrison wrote X-Men.
My like yeah, that was the worst like rules lawyering comic nerd moment for me because they find her psychically, like
Yeah.
they're scanning for survivors
But
psychically,
you can't find her psychic.
but
presence.
she's in her
She's
diamond form and she's not like she's impenetrable to
They
psychic
haven't
stuff.
set that up in this
And like
universe then,
I could just see adults when I was 7 just rolling their eyes at me, like and like yeah, and I had a moment of like
Yet it's a comic.
But now with Wolverine
Stop
without
yelling at
his
the TV.
adamantium skeleton, he can develop his secondary mutation, like in the comics.
Wait, what's
Well,
his secondary?
what was it? He that's where didn't he originally get the bone claws from
well, he
that?
has bone claws that they're the adamantium claws overwrote.
okay.
But that wasn't a secondary mutation. That was just a thing. That
Can't remember what
Secondary
secondary
mutation?
mutations.
Dates.
They gave him a weird thing where he had like a caveman nose, and I really hope they don't do that. That was weird.
Yeah,
I remember the action figure.
Those changing up beast is always fun.
Well, Kyle and Randy, did you think it was too fast of a season?
No, I'm all about short seasons. I don't want things to last that long. I'd like them to burn twice as bright and half as long. But I do think there's a reasonable argument to be made, especially that the Inferno episode was maybe cut short. I would argue, apparently not with everyone else, that Life Death was too short because in the comics that is a masterpiece of storytelling. And here
the
it's
problem
just
with
like-
it could be that it doesn't have enough time.
Well,
to breathe.
it's an
to breathe.
episode and a half long,
And
which
then
is just weird.
I did feel like their
They split it with
three-parter at
Mojo.
the end, weirdly, even though it was 3 parts, I thought they skimmed over a lot of stuff
Mhm.
that could have had some room to breathe.
So maybe don't make it longer, and I know this is an ensemble cast and you don't want to do it, but maybe pick a couple people to really focus on instead of trying to do everybody.
Maybe, although there's nobody I'd leave out except maybe Jean Grey. Who
Well,
I
Jubilee and
never liked.
Roberto. I'm like,
No, I wanted that. Story.
Roberto's supposed to be our in character, but he's so rarely even here.
Yeah.
Like, so he doesn't fulfill his purpose.
I'd get rid of that half of the screen.
You know what's weird is
Actually,
really
just
liked-
Beast.
I
All
really like
want
them
is
using
Beast.
Bishop, and then Bishop just vanishes in like episode 3.
So Beast.
Wherever Bishop's from in the future has the thickest black scent.
Well, that's
Yikes.
because he used to talk just like a weird Southerner.
Okay, I
His
was
original
wondering,
voice
man,
cast was
I
the
honestly,
worst.
I was like, where in the future is he from? Because like, it's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, compared to the way
it's
the rest.
better than the original 90s
Yeah.
because he sounded like a weird Southern.
Though
white
when
dude.
he appears at the end, I mean, I realize like Bishop has full right to a black scent. He's a black character.
Yeah.
But I'd heard people. We had a friend that didn't like the Perry White in My Adventures with Superman.
Yeah.
and thought he sounded too caricature.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, Bishop's gonna really piss you off. But I loved it at the end when he pops up and Forge has the like, the X-Men are dead. And Bishop just all but laughs when he's like, "Oh, dude, is
Yeah,
that
I've been
Okay.
dead so many times.
Sure.
yeah, man.
Okay.
I like how you would. This isn't our first. The X-Men are dead rodeo. Like it's like
Great.
yes,
Yeah.
great. like, because that's just X-Men as hell. Like, of course they're dead. Yeah, whatever.
On my wish list would be 2 versions of Bishop from different parts in the timeline, one with mullet, one without mullet.
Definitely need mullet.
That would be a great device.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it there, right?
Yeah.
Have y'all seen the meme that goes around of Gary Coleman in his
Yes, the Gary Coleman is just Bishop with a glow up.
engineer,
Yes,
yeah,
I haven't
yes.
seen that yet.
Can we talk about the ending? Because I want to get y'all's thoughts on like
Yeah.
where we're
Just gonna
going from
say,
here?
what do we feel about
the time split?
The time split.
I love
and
the time
Apoc-
splits X-Men as hell.
So I like
having
the
them
idea
fighting
of the
across
time
two
split.
time things feels so out of the comics to me that I'm like, yeah.
But is
there's
this-
some we haven't seen? So,
But is this pulling from something already?
yes and no.
Yes and no.
So I don't believe we've ever seen Apocalypse 3000 BC. They've done some miniseries, but I don't believe they ever had the X-Men facing off with him in that.
They've never had we've seen like him, we've seen him back there, but not with them thrown back there with him.
But the future is a fairly obscure miniseries with art by Gene Ha, who's a fantastic artist, called Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, where they were sent in the future to raise Nathan. And it was sort of like it was actually a kind of a thank you for them to like, hey, you didn't get to raise your kid. Now the two of you married to each other, not to clones of each other, get to raise this kid, even though it's in this weird post-apocalyptic future.
And
Wait,
even though
that's
he's
the
kinda
same
not
Nathan,
wanting-
or that's another?
That's the same Nathan. That's Cable.
That's
Okay.
So
that's
that's
the
where he
Nathan
got
they
sent.
sent forward. Okay.
It's before he gets the technovirus, or
So-
after they've cured him or something.
So this just negates that really heartfelt scene across the table where he's like,
a little bit. A
"Oh,
little bit it
actually,
does.
you guys did raise me. You just
That's
don't know
Cable
it yet?"
for you.
But the thing is, they don't know. He never knew that it was them. There's some kind of timeline malarkey or something where they can't tell
not.
him who it is. So the person who brings him in, Mother Ascani, that's Rachel Gray, aka the alternate universe daughter of Cyclops and Jean from Days of Future Past.
Yes.
They're getting weird.
It's
Wait, last name Gray? They weren't married at that time?
they were married in that it was Days of Future Past was alternate.
Maybe
But she-
maybe they
oh,
take
Yeah.
her last.
They took
name.
her last name.
yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I was so happy to see that because that is deeply obscure. And it's in the far future. And also, it's a far future where Apocalypse has won.
I was about to
So
say
both ends of that future
Did
are
you see the
Apocalypse
stinger?
related. Yes, I almost did, and then I found
I
out
did not
later
the
it was
first time I saw it, and then Nick threw it back on.
Wait,
There's a
the
stinger.
stinger, the post credits.
There's a post credits.
Oh yeah. I saw
Oh,
that,
yeah.
So Gambit has been Death in the comics at one point.
Okay.
He was his horseman. So clearly, Apocalypse is going to bring Gambit back as his horseman.
As a horseman, that works. They're always swapping out horsemen as they redo this story.
Yeah.
So they already did that in the original.
That's
Yeah,
the,
and
that's-
that's where we have
I'm-
Archangel.
they crushed it with Apocalypse in the original as far
Yeah.
as an animated thing. I'm really surprised they're redoing it.
We're talking about the Oscar Isaac.
No, yes, obviously.
Absolutely. The
So good.
I really feel like the Apocalypse storyline was done pretty well, and I don't want to really see them retread ground, especially since I didn't really like the new thing they did.
Yeah.
Plot wise, I'm like, no, let these. Honestly, the stuff I really liked about the season was them hanging out, playing basketball, and now none of that is gonna. It's all gonna be plot next time. It's all gonna be. We got to get back to the time. There's gonna be no fucking.
Well, let me give you a possibility though. The very thing you think is a weakness now might be a strength because they probably won't spend 10 episodes getting them back to the present. They may do that in 3, and then there'll be basketball in
true.
episode 4 or 5.
Okay. Okay.
Can I also
could
posit
turn out.
another idea?
Yeah, for sure.
There's a new set of X-Men that are in the current timeline, right?
So we're gonna get past, future, and certain.
We got
Yes.
Magic, we got
Okay.
Colossus, we got
Colossus,
Shadowcat,
Havoc.
Emma Frost.
Have we ever had Shadowcat on the X-Men originally?
Well, she was in the background of Forge, all the people.
Yeah,
Right, but I mean,
Yes.
but she has
available.
never been a character in X-Men, the original animated
No.
series.
No,
they
they
never
did
did
not
Kitty
do
Pryde
her.
No.
because they had
They didn't do
Jubilee.
Yeah.
And I love Kitty Pryde, one of my favorite
Yes.
characters, so I'm so excited about that.
So
but
like
also,
we would get all of them, right?
we'll get all
hope.
that. We don't know where Storm or Wolverine or Morph are.
No,
Right.
Wolverine was with them in the desert, right?
They're gonna be.
Oh, did he not show up?
I don't think he was.
No, those three are off on their own. I bet you they're gonna do there's a version in the timeline where Storm and Logan live a life together,
Oh, right. Yeah.
and
that's true.
and come back, and that I'm thinking they're gonna live their own separate thing, and come back and oh, that was a crazy 2 weeks, and Morph, Storm, and Wolverine are 2 weeks, yeah.
I want them to be in
Sure.
the Mojoverse or something.
Man,
And then
I want
I loved getting
to
see
find
the
out that
Mojoverse.
Storm was actually Morph the whole time when they get back.
Wait.
Damn it,
that
Morph!
that was Morph the whole time? Yeah, except when there were
whole
2
time?
storms.
Or
Oh,
the
I just thought it was
whole-
my birthday.
Morph. Oh.
So I also, the other thing, this is a very deep comics. I don't actually think it's going to happen. But Marvel Snap, the little app game they do, their current season is the Exiles, which is a fairly deeply. That's a deep cut.
Love Exiles comic.
Nocturne, Blink, all those characters on the
Mimic.
characters this month, and I'm like, if they're doing like jumping around multiverse kind of thing, who traveled them in time? It could be related to the Exiles. If they use the Exiles, that'd be amazing.
That could be so fun. But that was that Mojo-ish?
No, they were.
Exiles?
I forget. They were some kind of like wristband thing that transported. It was some kind of like semi-sentient force that was having them correct the timelines. And like we don't know who.
It was
caused them to
Sliders
travel
with
in time.
X-Men.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
We don't know. We don't know why they traveled in time at the end, and it feels like it had to have been for a good reason because they stopped an apocalypse from happening. And, they saved the X-Men from dying. So it probably isn't like a bad guy. It's not like Kang or anything. It's probably someone who.
Ooh, but speaking of Kang, is there any relation with Kang and Apocalypse in the end of this? Or Rama Tut?
No, Rama Tut and Apocalypse, I don't think they've ever done anything with them, even though they're both sort of Egyptian.
I heard some, I guess it was just theory from people that were thinking that the people that were fighting between Apocalypse, like those other people, might have been Rama Tut's guys.
It would be cool to do.
Which would be Kang, right?
He's an obvious person to be like a power player at that time.
Right. And Apocalypse has to eliminate him as quick as he can so Apocalypse can Apocalypse, or vice versa.
Yeah, it would be cool to do that.
You gotta respect Rogue for jumping into a conflict without knowing who the bad guys and good guys are. Like, nah, those are snake-headed motherfuckers. Snakes are evil.
You hit the people. When you see a bunch of people, if you see like 6 people beating up one person, you jump in on the side of one person.
Yeah. I love that she's like, that's barely even touches sand and it's like,
X-Men. I think Magneto would have a thing to say about whose side who you'd be on when 7 dudes are beating the shit out of you.
He probably would.
You also think of how malnourished Egyptians are, and she just like tossed one as hard as she could.
Nightcrawler
You just drop him in the sky.
I don't know why Nightcrawler doesn't finish more fights that way.
He just pops into the background like 20 feet in the air, drops that dude, pops back.
It was like such a Barry Pepper from Saving Private Ryan, where he's like, I kill him and then I sleep like a baby. I pray and sleep like a baby. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Whatever. The most religious guy is just a straight up murderer.
Right.
Well, they never even deal with the fact that Rogue is a murderer. They have no time.
No.
Oh man, when she tosses, also that was one of the moments of like having to remember that everyone here has powers and then forget that fact because she throws him off that building, and I'm like, one of you can teleport.
As the
Three of you can fly.
Yeah, none of them really wanted to save him.
No.
Is this who we are?
Right.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I mean, we all just stood here for it, so I think so.
Yeah. I would like to talk about Captain America for a second, if I may.
Oh man.
So
They stole
got
Captain
mad.
America out.
because they have to do the ally thing of like, oh, I'm an ally, but not really.
Yeah, he's a
kinda.
stand-in. He's a stand-in for fake ally. He's a stand-in for America as a concept.
Which
but
I
don't
get.
use Cap for that.
But
Use
Cap
somebody
characters
else.
for that. That's why U.S. Agent exists.
Yeah,
Like, that's
exactly.
why. Like,
That was actually Iron Patriot.
And
right,
then-
couldn't
right.
help.
And
You
then to
send
have him
Rhodey-
stand,
you send
and then
Rhodey for that bullshit.
And then you had him again standing by as the president launches nuclear missiles, which everybody knows about it, and all he does is look disappointed. I'm like, what kind of weak ass Captain America is this?
Well, so
Ultimately, they were right to launch the missiles, though,
were
right?
they? Because
They
they
didn't do
almost
shit.
destroyed the
Well,
entire world.
Well, they
It
were
all worked
shocked
out?
when like the missiles are like, oh, the asteroid is going to destroy. So I'm like,
Sad
yeah,
to say,
you knocked it out of the air.
the plan to destroy Asteroid M did
I
not
didn't-
work.
Because
it was like the Iron Giant. We're like, where's the missiles coming down, man?
it was happening so fast, I didn't really understand what was going on, and also like, so I get why the humans didn't understand,
Yeah.
but like the Nimrod like sentient sentinels come down and like invade them for a minute and then
Yeah.
get turned off, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, now that the crisis is over, let's blow up the asteroid.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Every time I watch this with my daughters, I would have to stop, which this show is awesome because I got to watch it with my kids
Yeah.
each episode
Yeah.
and got them way into X-Men. But I had to keep stopping and they'd go, okay, what's this? What's this? What's this?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, what I think is going on as the best I could explain it. And they'd go, I guess that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, I guess. I
Sure.
don't know. And then we go back to it.
But
Look,
since we
about
talked about
Flash.
Cap, we should also talk about the other cameos in the finale.
Oh, can I mention one last thing about Cap?
Yeah.
Has anybody tossed a shield like that before?
No,
That was
no one's
like,
had the disrespect.
Oh, duh.
That was so mean.
Bitch.
He's like, look,
Wow.
I just, I fought the Nazis for you. Could you go get my
Right.
fucking shield?
Fuck you.
You know how hard it is to get that much vibranium?
But I loved how it started off with just 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for the animated universe that they were,
Yep.
because
These are people that cameoed in the 90s.
because Spider-Man had, because they all were technically part of the same universe
Yes.
in that 90s cartoons.
Yeah.
Spider-Man had a whole crossover episode, Secret Wars style, where he brought them all together.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four were in there. Iron Man,
The
Daredevil,
90s version of Iron Man, which is
Punisher was in. Punisher was in there. Blade,
Yeah.
like they all
Wait,
showed
Blade
up.
showed up?
Blade showed up in an episode of Spider-Man. Yeah.
Oh, but did Blade
was
show
he
up
here?
in this?
No.
No, I don't think he showed up in this stuff.
But
though.
like they've done a lot of characters that I didn't know. I'm like, oh, they're doing it. But then they did characters that weren't in that animated. Like Cloak and Dagger never showed up.
that was so cool. Cloak and Dagger, that was a deep cut.
I was so happy
But
to see
Cloak and
them.
Dagger hanging out with Daredevil, I'm like, oh, that
Makes total sense, yeah.
Perfect. It
So
makes
they're
total
not
sense.
limiting themselves to, like, they're doing new stuff. And
Yeah.
I
Dude,
really
did you
like
guys
that.
see Walter White in the background of one of those shots?
No, I did not.
I'm sorry,
see that.
what?
Breaking Bad exists in this. Sitting there with Senator Kelly in the
that's
war
funny.
room. There's a guy that just looks
President-
like
He's just method visor.
President Kelly in the 6-month gap or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought making him president and being a little more sympathetic to mutants was an interesting call. I think that's more interesting than what they did in the comics, where he just kind of just vanished.
Well, it never made sense to me of like destroying Genosha to garner like, aha, this will make humans hate fucking mutants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did give an explanation later of like,
Bastian's explanation was fun of like, well, I can't get you sympathy, but I can just push people so much further that they go numb
Don't
without
care.
it.
Yeah.
apathy. And I'm
like,
like, okay, that
oh,
makes
crap.
more sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like we forget about that. Humans hate mutants by the end of this.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not apathy.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, by the end of it, he did turn off all the power to all the hospitals. So
right.
Well,
So we got a Doctor Strange. You don't need power.
I did
That
like that
was
they
cool.
they do mention like in one line that like it's not as simple as Magneto turned off the power. He broke the world.
yeah.
Like if they don't turn, like if he doesn't fix it,
So that was the thing. That was one of my complaints. We were talking about this off mic with some friends that like, they're like, okay, we have to stop him in 12 hours. Why? They never explain why.
Yeah.
They're just like, Storm
Because-
just says the earth is dying. And they're like, okay.
okay.
There's
I-
cut scenes, I think. The editor had to just take out a lot of animation.
He's like, should we
'cause I'm
explain
assuming
what
he
the
like
deadline's
stopped
there
the
for?
core
No, they'll
from spinning.
What I
there's a
need
deadline.
is just a couple lines of dialogue for some of this stuff. Like, I need them to go, Rogue, like, can't you take Magneto's powers? Like, no, if I take his life force now while he's in there with Xavier, he might die.
Yeah.
And if he dies, then Xavier might die. I can't do that. And I'm like, but don't, I shouldn't do the work to no prize this.
I agree. There could be some dialogue.
I think with the Rogue Magneto thing, though, specifically, they did go into great detail about he's the only person she can touch.
Oh, that our powers don't work on it.
That's why
That's
she can't
right.
But we haven't spent enough time with them fucking this season.
do it anytime.
So what you're saying is we missed that cutscene of them fucking.
Right, right.
Wait, but they can touch only when he like activates a little field on
true.
it.
Because his
yeah.
power. Because I don't know how Magneto's powers work in the show.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because she takes his power in the Bryan Singer one.
Yeah.
So
So you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
and that's what
Well,
turns her hair white.
Because in the 90s show, and they never made sense about how his powers worked, but he could make a shield around himself, like,
Mhm.
and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a magnetic shield.
Yeah.
Okay, that blocks a wooden chair.
Everything, man.
That's a Stan Lee
Everything.
thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That was around when he was created.
Seeing Daredevil was dope.
Yes.
I
Fucking
loved it.
Yes.
in the middle of like a blacked out New York
And
Daredevil.
he just seemed so happy, didn't he?
yeah, like he's like,
He's like,
all right.
"Beat us."
Lays out a
Mhm.
clothesline and just trips like
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
but
I'm
he didn't
surprised.
say,
I'm
didn't see that.
I'm not shocked, and also am surprised we didn't see Punisher in there either.
right.
Like,
They probably like, we probably shouldn't have Punisher mowing down looters, right?
Just
Right.
murdering people.
but he was in a Spider-Man fucking episode.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But he never killed anyone.
No, he uses mercy
used,
bullets.
He used laser
Yeah.
bullets or whatever. It was Blade used a energy sword. It was the Spider-Man show is not as good as the X-Men show.
Okay. The X-Men show, when I went back to watch, one of the coolest moments in the X-Men comics is when Storm and Callisto have their duel with knives, and she stabs Callisto in the fucking heart, and people are like, oh my God, Storm's ruthless. In the X-Men show, they have lightsabers for no reason. So I call bullshit on Spider-Man is cooler than X-Men. They're
Okay.
the same. It's
They're
the
the
same.
same. They're the same.
They weren't allowed to punch people on the Spider-Man
Okay,
show.
fair. All right.
Like,
So where's the show go then in the next season?
I don't know. And I kind of love that I don't know.
I like the X-Men-ness of forever how long they leave it in this status quo, that we have a team in the past working with an apocalypse that isn't yet.
Do you think
Bad.
they work with him?
I
don't
think
know.
they do. I think
they have
they rescued
at
him.
various points
Yeah.
in the comics. Like if they're willing to forgive Bastion now, they're willing to be nice to Apocalypse like the X-Men would never kill baby Hitler. They would try to change him.
It's true.
And so like I kind of like the idea of like trying to work an apocalypse problem from both sides. Like you're
Yeah.
fighting him in the future, hoping that the guys in the past do something that in the middle of this fight makes him go, I just got a new memory. You guys are great.
Well, and then that brings the question of what's going to be in the modern day, because
Right.
they're going to be trying to find them, right? So they'll be
So-
looking into who did the time travel.
If you're gonna go forward with this series, if it's not gonna be just a limited series, because like these voice actors are old, they can't
I
do
think they've
this,
said at
It's
least
done
10
too
seasons.
well.
You
But-
can replace voice actors.
but-
and
and you can replace them, but also maybe don't replace them. Replace the team. Bring in a new team, the new X-Men that they bring in, Iceman, Scarlet Witch, whoever they're gonna bring in.
There's like a
and then
Krakoa worth of
fucking.
mutants.
If you wanted to like branch out into a more animated series, give me an X Factor show.
yeah.
Give me a fucking X-Force show.
I do think like probably not using this word right, but culturally, like the feeling that I get from the team is that they are going to do a dark X-Men, and like we are going to see Cyclops go rogue.
Apocalypse? Oh,
I mean,
I would love
they should absolutely do Age of
Oh, yeah,
Apocalypse in
no.
animation. Like that would make so much sense.
But I would also
That's
love to
like
see
Dark
like
Beat.
Cable's X
Yeah.
Force, like the hard edge like '90s, like let's go whoop ass. We're the X-Men black team, kind of like they've done that before.
Yeah, was it called Dark X-Men or what
they've
was the
done
one?
they've done a dark.
No,
Where they're
Dark
like,
X-Men was the Osborn run one.
So,
Dark Avengers.
but the Age of Apocalypse makes me think of like one Age of Apocalypse comes about because of time travel shenanigans.
Mhm.
But you could actually, since they've done things slightly different here, they've already tweaked things. They could do a thing where basically, in trying to fix this apocalypse problem, they cause the Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah,
Sure.
Like
The-
that-
Cable just gonna have to keep popping in and being like,
stop fucking with the timelines,
that's
Barry.
Cable's whole deal.
I did
Quit it.
like that.
Body
Like,
slide one.
how many times have you done this, Cable? Like 200.
That
Like,
was- yeah.
how many
that's rough.
times have you tried to save your mother? Like 200. What's your mama feel about you though? Like he gets off of
Yeah.
your mama line.
Yep.
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
great.
Yep. Yeah.
I also wonder. I mean, I guess they'll just explain it. If he's time traveling all the time, and they can occasionally just take people back and forward in time, and Beast knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Cable just go grab him and be like, "Oh, well, that plot, we're not going to deal with that."
They don't know. Well, they don't know where they are. That's part of the problem.
Right.
He has no idea where they are in time.
They just got to make some
So maybe-
timeline changing ruckus, and then he'll know.
Oh no!
Like,
right.
Well, yeah,
Wait
take
a
a
minute,
message
why are we
from
all
the-
lizards?
I imagine that
Doc
the
Brown
current
did that.
X-Men team will be looking to find them or working with them
Yeah.
and working with Cable, and they'll get a message from the past,
Yeah.
like they'll discover
A telegram.
like a telegram. Like,
Marty.
Marty,
Marty, I'm stuck in ancient Egypt. It's on a they're like taking a trip to Egypt, and they find on the walls, and it's like, oh, look.
Savior, it's about your kids, Savior.
So I got this tablet from Western Union,
Yeah.
but it's in Sanskrit. I can't read it.
Also, more cameos from like not just Morph turning into the cameos of people,
Yes.
but like
Although that is cool.
More of that,
I loved him turning up as the Hulk.
yeah,
Every time it happens, I go, "Wait, what's that person?"
Same. Every
Damn it,
time
it's
every
Morph.
time I'm like, wait a minute, Psylocke's in the show? Oh right, it's fucking Morph.
Sauron?
Damn it.
Wait a minute,
And
Quicksilver.
that's how Wolverine's gonna feel like when he finds out that it's been Storm. The Storm has been Morph the whole time.
Yep.
It's like, wait, you were Morph? God damn it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
there's a
we're
moment
gonna have
early-
like a Homelander episode of it.
There's a moment early where Lady Deathstrike shows up to protect Magneto at
Yeah.
the assassin. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, he's bringing in the Brotherhood to help him out with the new team. That's what an amazing dynamic to see how those two. It's more fuck.
Morph. It's always Morph.
It's always more.
Yep.
Damn it.
Which Morph would also love our reaction to that.
Yes.
Us getting excited and
Yeah.
going, "God damn it!"
God damn it, it's Morph.
Withering Sinister into a Spirit Halloween Dead Man.
That was great.
Awesome.
That was
like
great.
I did love Jean. Like the Phoenix just burns away what's not necessary. You're duct taped together DNA, aren't you?
Spare parts, aren't you, bud?
Yeah. And just like leaves him as this withered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Also,
great.
it gave Morph a great line of like,
Yeah.
"You look the same to me."
Yep. Yep.
I thought that how this show, especially in contrast to the earlier iteration of X-Men, how this weighed in on the heavier metaphor of
Oh.
marginalized people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and really drove home that point was excellent.
That's
Well,
always
it's
been what X-Men's been
nuanced,
about.
too.
It's what it's really where X-Men's themes work best.
They fully switched the metaphor to homosexuality and coming out like that. like a lot of it is like Roberto feels like finding him in a club and him hiding like
Right. But also, I mean, it is supposed to be universal and is supposed to apply to everyone. But because the showrunner, Bo DeMeo, is an out gay man, or was, so we don't know what happened there.
yeah.
Was
he
the
is-
showrunner
he,
or was out?
he came out
Was the showrunner.
Back
he
in the
actually,
closet.
right after episode 5 said basically, he's like came out of his exile
Yeah.
and said, yes, this was done in sort of the wake of, he's like, yeah, it's 9/11, but it's also like the Pulse nightclub. It's like, it's that kind of stuff. And for him to be that like, that's why I think it feels so personal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I want to know what happened, because I'm like, I want to say bring Bo DeMeo back because his writing was clearly there. Like, but I'm like, but I don't want to say that and then find out, oh no, they were right to get rid of
Well,
him.
so
They
Honestly,
were probably right.
I
yeah.
don't know. Like this is like, is this a thing where Disney
Because Bo DeMeo got also
He was also
removed
fired off the
from
Witcher. He's
and
the
is
one.
problematic.
So he's the one.
No
that
one's
actually-
defending the guy.
He's the one
Yeah.
that actually threw the other writers under the bus in the Witcher room, I think, and
okay.
he said that none of the other writers liked the source material, and
I
that
think,
started a bunch of shit.
Abusive is what
Yeah.
the rumors are.
Yeah, that he's at
and
least emotionally-
It's like the overall problem there is like there's a whole team of people that are making that show great. There's a bunch of people that all love X-Men and
Yeah.
are the writers that are like forming
Yeah.
that show, even the illustrators, the whole team.
Yeah.
It's not just Bo DeMaio. I think that Bo DeMaio probably had the best pitch
Yeah.
initially, and
Yeah.
that was the initial vision and starting board. But
Right.
other people
It's
are
a
going
room.
to carry the torch on that, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great.
And that's good. I would like to know, I know it's not my business. I would like to know just so I can be like, oh no, fuck that guy, or oh no, he got a raw deal from Disney.
Randy, to your previous theory, I don't think that's too far off because there's a lot of things in the show that don't come to fruition that feel like they're baked into an earlier draft.
Yeah.
Like the Morph being obviously in love with Wolverine,
Yes. Oh,
but them not dealing with it.
That's
And then Charles and Xavier, like, obviously being previous lovers,
Yeah. Yeah.
but them not actually saying it. And I think that might have been that conflict might have come into a head at the final stages.
See, that's one thing, because the finale, one of the things I thought was kind of interesting. It works, but like they took Xavier off the board, and then they brought Magneto in, and then by the end, it's Xavier versus Magneto again.
Yeah.
And that felt a little reductive. It felt like they'd lost all the growth, and I'm like, was that a fight that someone lost?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, they said
Like they
DeMeo
wanted to have
actually
that
said-
relationship.
DeMeo did say that he based a lot of this on Fatal Attractions, which was when Magneto goes back to being bad. So maybe that was built into it. I don't know, but
Well, he
to
didn't have
me,
a
it
chance to
felt
be
a little
good
weird.
for him. Like he
never
feel
had
like
the chance.
I
Yeah,
feel
we
like he
never saw
wasn't
that.
good for any amount of
Yeah,
time. And
yeah.
maybe that was the conflict there.
Yeah,
Because
it does. I do wonder if like it was behind the scenes, like they wanted to go a little further with Morph being non-binary and all that kind of stuff, and maybe that Disney got skittish. I don't know.
I don't know.
I do feel like it's cool that the metaphor is stronger, but there's still no gay character
Yeah.
on the X-Men.
Yeah, I know. There's still nobody who's actually. I mean,
Like,
Shit.
yeah.
What about
there's
in
not-
the comics? There's a bunch of
in the comics? Sure,
There's,
but not in
there's
the,
gay characters in the comics,
but
yeah,
not in the show.
but not in the show.
Iceman.
Iceman is, yeah,
Iceman.
Yeah. Hey, guess who's not here?
yeah.
Guess who's not in the season?
Iceman, Shatterstar,
Nope.
Richter.
I don't see Blue up there other than Beast.
There's any number of gay characters.
That's
Man,
right.
did you remember
Shatterstar.
Beast
And
had a
Richter,
girlfriend
yeah.
this season?
Yeah.
Like he had a
Oh
sort of a
man, well
girlfriend.
when she sells him out,
Trish Tilby, man.
It is funny looking at those outfits going, yeah, they're all straight.
Oh, we didn't talk about the outfits. we didn't talk about the outfits, by the way. Them using the classic costumes in that last episode
again-
made me so happy.
Again, so cool. No reason for it.
cool.
Just cause.
No, wasn't it because the mansion been wrecked and they
This
didn't have
mansion's
their
wrecked.
clothes? They
Man,
didn't have
talk
any
about
clothes.
this isn't our first this isn't our first dead X-Men rodeo. Like the mansion getting wrecked just feels like the natural state of the mansion.
Yeah, yeah.
Storm
Like,
is so
it's so weird when
devastated.
it's
Or
assembled.
the
fully.
Blackbird.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah,
what
they
Nick,
actually
Nick
said
was like,
there's a
if
third
you,
Black Barbie wrecked.
Nick was like, man, if you get in a Blackbird and you don't walk, if you don't walk into the Blackbird with a plan of how to walk away from the crash,
That's on you.
that's on you.
No,
Like
you
this
have-
plane's going down.
Everyone assumes you have a parachute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
this
there's
is
a
some
50-50
some
shot we're
launch
gonna
pad
land and a
McQuack
50-50
shit.
shot we're gonna crash.
Forge is a liability in that fight with
Yeah.
like I've seen Storm glass a full fucking legion of Sentinels, and she had to save you because you can't escape a Blackbird. Fucking everyone, Morph can do that. Everyone can do it.
Even Wolverine can't fly, but he could just hit the ground.
Yeah.
Like he'll be okay.
It was getting a little tedious looking at. Well, I'm on Threads now, not on Twitter anymore.
Oh.
But not to brag, but
You mean X for X-Men, Grant?
Yeah.
I see that all these comments after every episode, is this person Omega level about each different X-Men character? And I'm like, stop, guys.
Most of them aren't.
I wish you didn't learn the term Omega level.
Omega level is a dumb term.
Stop
Yes,
it.
They ruined it. And everybody's Omega level. If they're your favorite, then they become Omega level. So people made Iceman an Omega level.
Absolutely.
I'm
You
like,
can freeze the water
that
in your
dude
brain.
is
He's the most
so
deadly mutant on Earth.
Yeah.
There he is. Yeah.
Now, Frozone, he's Omega level.
No, Magneto and Storm are the only Omegas on the fucking team.
Yeah.
Like,
But even Storm, like that's a new thing. She was never Omega level. She was powerful.
What
but
was the superhero show, the British one, where the guy had milk powers?
No
Oh,
heroics.
yeah,
Misfits.
No, Misfits.
Misfits, yeah.
And that guy ends up being like the most deadly.
lactokinesis.
Omega level lactokinesis.
It was so great.
But until he ran into his kryptonite, someone that was lactose intolerant.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, one of the misfits is like, I'm lactose tolerant. There's no dairy in me. You have no power over me.
No power over me.
And so this is a real scene in a real show.
So good. That show was so great.
I'm also like, I want to rewatch all that.
Oh.
Yeah, right now. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for us. You
Yeah.
guys got anything you're excited about watching in the next week? Excited about not watching TV?
There's nothing else to watch now.
I want season 2 right fucking now.
Also,
Puppet Theater?
in case this does sound different, we are recording this at ATX.
No,
Record
record
ATX.
ATX.
Record ATX Studios.
Yeah, Grant Studio.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's on maybe YouTube. I don't know if you guys are using the video,
Yep.
but you can
I
see
probably will.
Sure.
I mean, we've got it. It's
Well,
all
I mean, we
sweet and
put the
nice.
audio up there. I don't know if I'm assuming it has
No,
a
it will.
picture.
it. Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys need any recording, any listeners need recording stuff done, this is a great fucking location,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
a
sounds great.
Studio.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take the plug.
It's also really cool you let us vape in here. Oh, it's on video. Never mind. Joke only works on the podcast.
I think we gotta go out on.
I'll never change.
I think we gotta go out on Kyle failing a bit.
Yeah,
That feels
historically, it's tradition. All right, till next time.
TV
Dudes out.
All right.
It's still Ryan Seacrest TV Dudes.
We've never found anything better.
We just used that.